Strong southerly winds. A storm chance arrives late Thursday into Friday.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Springfest savings start now at Lowe's. Get up to 40% off select major appliances, plus save an additional $100 on every $1,000 you spend on select major appliances. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items. Springfest savings start now at Lowe's. Get up to 40% off select major appliances, plus save an additional $100 on every $1,000 you spend on select major appliances. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
Portions of the following program will be recorded.
Number 1 on your car radio preset and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. WDAS and WD273D Philadelphia is Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler.
Here's the pitch. Schwarber swings, drives it high and deep, center field. Doyle back, track, wall, it's gone! Off the ivy of the batter's eye. Kyle Schwarber with his third home run of the season. Swinging a high fly ball center field. Pretty well hit. Doyle drifting back to the track at the wall. He leaps, and it's gone. Back to back. Nick Castellanos follows Max Kepler with a home run of his own. Next pitch, swinging a ground ball to short. Sosa is up with it. He's thrown to first. He's in time, and the Phillies have won their home opener, coming from behind against the Colorado Rockies as they do damage against the bullpen again.
Oh, yes, indeed. 6-1, your final score. The Fightins battle back. Throw up 4 in the 7th and come away with the victory at the home opener. And a good afternoon, everybody. Sean Brace, Luke Arcaini joining us right from the jump as it is baseball season. Luke!
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You know what was crazy yesterday being down there at that ball game? First and foremost, what a beautiful day. Nice and warm. I was hot. And then just to have everybody that, nice work on the daily ticket too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's baseball season.
It's baseball season. Just to have everybody on Kyle Schwarber.
Oh, yeah.
For him to deliver and cash that ticket. He was plus 280 to go yard yesterday. I simply said it just was not worth it. The one that I will take complete egg all over my face was on the way down. I said, Max Kepler, he's not hitting a home run in his home opener. He's not doing it. And then the guy goes out. How old is Max Kepler? Is he a kid? He's
20, 28, something like that.
He's a kid to me. What a game.
He's 32, actually. Never mind.
Is he 32?
32.
He's been in the league for a little while.
Yeah, he has.
Still, though, crazy to see that game, the way it played out. And I know that everybody was like, who are these guys when it comes to the Rockies? Everybody in that building at Citizens Bank Park knew one player on the Colorado Rockies. Maybe you knew a couple more because you do this for a living. But other than that, Chris Bryant was the only guy. We were playing Name a Rocky.
Come on, you don't know Mickey Moniak on the bench? Come on.
Yeah, Mickey Moniak. There you go. Yeah. Other than that, but what a game. And, of course, the Phillies found a way to win another one, to get the party started at home. And it was just great to see the bats get going. Of course, Castellanos to Schwarber, you heard there, courtesy of the Philadelphia Phillies Radio Network. Your big takeaway from yesterday, though, Luke, was what?
Yeah, the Phillies are starting to commit to a bit like the Eagles. The Eagles, throughout the beginning of their season that they eventually won the Super Bowl, they could not score in the first quarter. The Phillies can't hit starting pitching now, but they can rake on relievers. Through the first 4 games of the Phillies season, starting pitchers against the Phillies, 23.1 innings pitched, 2 earned runs for a .77 ERA. Relief pitchers against the Phillies so far in 2025, 12.2 innings pitched, 22 earned runs for a 15.5 ERA. Something about these starting pitchers the Phillies are sort of having a bit of trouble with right now, but luckily for them, they're hitting in the more important part of the game, which is the later part of the game. So they've scored just about all of their runs. They've scored 22 or 24 earned runs that they've scored have been against relievers so far this year. So I don't know if this is going to be like the new bit this year. I hope not, but the Phillies are 3-1. They're hitting. The bats looked really good again yesterday, and there's one guy that I really want to get into eventually, but I guess we can wait a few minutes to do that. But yeah, I like what I'm seeing so far from the lineup.
No, take it away because, again, you're the one that covers the Phillies for crossingbroad.com and, of course, here on The Gambler. So who is exactly who do you have the bullseye on that you want to discuss?
Yeah, I want to talk about Edmundo Sosa because so far this
for me,
season,
baby. I had him
right,
yesterday.
never a doubt. Sosa bags, Kepler bags, never a doubt. Edmundo Sosa is a guy, who's not out there starting every day, and he's not anywhere close to some huge popular guy on the team. But there was a ton of, articles were written last night, and there was some interview videos with Schwarber and Bryce and Castellanos, and they all got asked about Edmundo Sosa, their backup middle infielder, and just unreal praise from everybody on the team about Sosa. And I mean, not necessarily just from his stats. I mean, yeah, you can say that he's hitting 545 so far this year with a 1.401 OPS, and he really got the Phillies offense going yesterday after that big Trey at bat. But this version of Edmundo Sosa is so valuable for this team because obviously, these guys can't play 162 games. Trey Turner, obviously, as we already know, can't play 162 games. Bryson Stott can't play 162 games. Alec Boehm can't play 162 games. You need an infielder like this. And one, it's still one of the best, acquisitions that the Phillies have had in the past years because these bench guys are valuable. And having a guy like Sosa in the clubhouse who is just one beloved by everyone. I've never heard one player in that locker room say a bad thing about Edmundo Sosa. But now for him to be able to do this off of the bench to start the year, who knows if they win that game yesterday without Sosa? I mean, they're down 1-0. Trey obviously works that awesome walk, but if it's not Sosa there, you don't know if there's a double there. So just the spark that he's giving, it's awesome that he's basically starting to turn into a fan favorite, and he plays on the bench. He doesn't play every day. He plays like 80 games a year. So it's really awesome to see him sort of getting some sort of a spotlight now, because he's really earned it since he's been in Philadelphia.
Phillies had the day off today, back at it tomorrow with Wheeler on the mound. And, I saw Joe Tanzi when he wrote a write-up by Crossing Broad. He's like, on paper, yeah, there is nothing you can do to make the case. Zero. There is zero cases to be made for the Colorado Rockies. No. Zero. No. And that's what we were saying on the way down yesterday to the game. And it's just like, wait a minute, like it's not supposed to be this easy. You know what? You sweat a little bit, but they play 9 innings for a reason. And you kind of had the feeling that eventually they were going to get it going. We have seen the Phillies bats obviously shut down in the opener against Mackenzie Gore, but I thought that we know that the light of day actually had more of effect than anything, and Gore is a pretty darn good pitcher at the end of the day as well. So I didn't think that was going to be the case yesterday. So eventually the bats got going yesterday, and it's going to be more of the same for the pitching as far as tomorrow is concerned, with Zach Wheeler on the mound. Looked good in his opener to get the season going. I think he went 6 innings, so I fully expect him to go somewhere around that mark, 6-7 innings, mow those Rocky hitters down. They're decent. Those are guys, they grind you. They get in the box, and they're there. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that's earth-shattering as far as from that lineup is concerned. So hopefully the Phils can find a way to win another game again tomorrow with the off day today. A lot of baseball going on, a lot of games, a lot of teams in action. But before we move off to the card here, Luke, and get your thoughts on any of the games that have your attention for tonight, I want to ask about the torpedo bat, because that is the talk of all things sports. De La Cruz, I tagged you in a tweet. He hit 2 home runs yesterday. He used it for the first time yesterday. Yeah, he hit 2 home runs. This guy is a front runner, one of the top players as far as NL MVP is concerned. Here he says, "Oh, I switched up during batting practice yesterday," and he goes yard not once but twice yesterday. So Luke, again, well, you know what? Don't take my word for it. Here.
The 1-1 pitch. Oh, my goodness. That is way out of here.
up off the batter's eye in center field. Second home run of the night for Ellie De La Cruz. My Lord.
So are we that's a drop. My Lord. Are we in the movement now that everybody's got to try it? Like if you're a general manager, you're owner of the baseball team, you don't have to use it, but you need to go. I think Bryce Stott was interviewed yesterday. He said, look, it's Invictus. You go there, you try out 100 different bats. Not everyone's going to be able to use this effectively. BS. I don't care about that. I'm demanding, if I'm an owner or a general manager, that we get everybody an opportunity to see if they like this bat and give it a shot. I do know Giancarlo Stanton was the first guy reportedly with the Yankees. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries his whole life, but he claims there was some concerns and maybe he did get hurt with the switch last year. So I want to put that out there, but I can live with it, man. And if you got guys going up there playing with it for the first time in their lives and BP at 650 and at 725 first pitch, they're hitting it over the batter's eye. Yeah, everybody should be swinging a torpedo bat today. Is that how you see it, Luke? Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that at least everybody should try. I don't think it's something that everybody's going to run out during the season. A lot of the big hitters, I will say, and I guess it's hard to say that because from some reports, it does seem like one may be on the way for Harper or already have gotten here. But there was a report yesterday from Ben Silver that Harper, Bohm, Stott, and Marsh have all placed orders for torpedo bats with Victus. Bohm actually used one yesterday. So Bohm, it got there they said around 20 to 30 minutes before first pitch. I believe Bohm hit like 4 balls in the cage with it and then just went out and tried it in yesterday's win. Obviously, it didn't work out great for him yesterday. But obviously, I think with today's day off, I think behind the scenes today when the guys are working out today, I expect a lot of the Phillies to be at least trying them out today. And I think tomorrow will probably be the first day you'd probably see them as long as the guys like them. So Harper, Bohm, Stott, Marsh have most likely put orders in. But I think it's something everyone's going to have to try, right? Because Stott went through a whole big thing yesterday. Obviously, there was a video from so good yesterday. Yeah, so he gave about a 2-minute sort of explanation about it behind how these guys get fitted for bats. It honestly sounds a lot similar to how the pros get fit for golf clubs. It's all based on your swing. Everybody's bat is different. Everyone's bat's based off their swing. It's a lot of it has to do with where you tend to hit the ball a lot. If you tend to hit it off the end of the bat a lot or the inside of the bat a lot, that's sort of where the difference in bats come. But I mean, I think you'd be stupid not to try it, right? Because you've seen the guys that have been using these so far. You've seen a guy like Anthony Volpe, who was pretty below average hitter last year, and he looks really good to start the year. You see a guy like Jazz Chisholm, who has always been a pretty good hitter, but I mean, this guy's just ripping the cover off the baseball right now. You see guys like Austin Wells have been trying it. Apparently the Braves have an order in for it, which is probably smart for them because they're starting off 0-5. They should probably try something. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be stupid if all 30 teams didn't at least try it. I don't know if all 30 teams will have a player that will use it. But if you're some, young player like, Stott, Marsh, and obviously they're not like crazy young, but they're still younger compared to the roster. And you're sort of on that fringe of like being an above average hitter to average, there's no reason you shouldn't at least try it. Because I mean, if you've seen these results so far, the ball pops. And as long as the bat is, fit to your swing, there is absolutely no harm in at least trying it in the cage right now. I do know that DraftKings was rolling out a promo as far as the torpedo bats are concerned. There's a list that I would imagine will continue to grow with the users that are using torpedo bats. Luke, books aren't stupid. They're making adjustments as we sit, no doubt about it. Yeah. But as we continue to add names here, if we do find a player that isn't on that list that we don't think has been changed as far as the price is concerned, are we at albeit 5 games into the regular season, but like you have to take a shot at some of these players. And I'm not saying wager on 5 shortstops or 5 guys that aren't prone to hitting bombs. But maybe you look at the total bases. Maybe you look at something more aggressive on the offensive side for a hitter perspective when it comes to wagering. And until it will take a little while for the names to eventually be all listed, who's using it and who isn't. But I guess back to the long-winded original question is, should we be aggressive on the props plays for guys we know who are using the torpedo bats, and for the guys that maybe aren't listed at this point in time, that, okay, you're digging a little bit deeper and you're seeing this insider for the Detroit Tigers talk about X hitter, or the Arizona Diamondbacks, maybe there's some whispers on the timeline there. Should we roll the dice on some of these plays?
Yeah, I think you definitely need to start. I think it's obviously with caution. Don't just take any random guy just because he's using it. But if you have a hitter that's great against lefties and a lefty's pitching that night and he's using a torpedo bat, it's worth taking. I will say Anthony Volpe on opening day, I believe, was plus 1,100 to hit a home run. He's obviously popped a few. Now he's down to 9-1. Jazz Chisholm, I believe, was plus 900 opening day to hit a home run. Now he's down to plus 600. These odds are going to start dropping for the guys that are using the torpedo bats, because these people are going to start feasting off of them, because it feels like now this is going to be the time. And I mean, we've already seen it. Like, if these torpedo bats are going to be popular, these guys are going to start using them. And it feels like that kind of situation where these things are just going to go nuclear for the next 2 weeks. And all you're going to see on the timeline for the next 3 weeks to a month is just, oh, this guy's using a torpedo bat. Look, he just hit a homer. This guy's using one. He just hit a homer. Like, the odds are going to start to drop. They've already started. If you like a guy that night for a home run and he's using a torpedo bat, I mean, it's pretty hard not to jump on it right now.
Yeah, apparently, and I'm not seeing this here in Pennsylvania, but different states will show different things for DraftKings, and now they have a filtered home run prop by player they believe will be using torpedo bats. And this is, look, it's the real deal. I get it. People are probably burned out over the word and don't want to hear about it anymore, but I don't believe this is going anywhere. The success that we are continuing to see, albeit 5 games into the regular season, you can't, turn a blind eye at that. You have to pay attention to this. And
no, they're not going anywhere because they're legal. And like until and if a ban would happen to them eventually, it's not going to happen until after the season. Like, that's not something they're going to ban during the year.
It needed to happen yesterday on Sunday. It was, and it's the cat's out of the bag. You can't. There's nothing you can do if you're Rob Manfred. Now, I say that, but we know how he operates. Sometimes it's not logical. And he is the commissioner, so he can do what he wants, and it's up to the owners at the end of the day. But I don't, like you said, bottom line, there is nothing illegal about these bats. Nothing.
No, there's nothing illegal, and there's just been people that haven't been using them. And I mean, I'll say this. They're not going to ban it if it makes the league more money. And more home runs and more offense means more money. And that means there's not going to be a so like, I don't expect these things to go anywhere until at least after the season. And even in that sort of note, I feel like that's when you'll get a pushback from the Players Association and be like, hey, these have been legal forever. Why are you trying to ban them now that we just started using them? Because if they've been legal forever, then you can't just ban. Like, I don't see where baseball can ban something that's been legal forever just because teams finally started taking advantage of it. Maybe that's, I saw someone the other day say the torpedo bats are just like the tush push. Not everyone's fit to them. Not everyone can do it, but if you do it, you have an advantage. So like, where is the fine line of if, everyone just starts coming out and Aaron Judge, and obviously I don't think Judge is going to use one, they said, but I mean, if you see a guy like Jazz Chisholm pop 45 home runs this year, or if you see a guy like Brandon Marsh get a torpedo bat and go out and hit 35 bombs this year, and the average like ERA across baseball goes up a whole point, like, where is the fine line there? Because that's where I think it could get a little dicey. But once again, I mean, money talks. So if this is going to make baseball more money, which it already has, I mean, ratings in baseball this past week have been through the roof because of these things. People are tuning in to see these guys holding bowling pins at the plate. So if it's going to make the league more money, if it's going to make teams more money, then I don't see a ban happening.
No, I'm right there with you.
And it's bizarre, man, because like you go up there and I saw the picture of Bohm yesterday. It's like this thing's huge, man. Like the barrel is just ginormous. The bat, it's crazy.
Well, I noticed Stanton, and I know we talked about it last year. We saw his bat last year. I'm telling you, it looked different. I didn't know it was such a thing, a torpedo bat, whatever. We've said this now multiple times. I think everybody has said this as well. I saw Jeff Pass, and it's just the biggest thing for all of us is how did it take this long in that sport where it's so analytical driven, and they're always trying to push the envelope and see what they can get. That is a huge talking point, one, of why it took so long. Two is, okay, now the pitchers are saying, again, this is something that's going to promote offense, but yeah, here we are not allowed to use something that is available for hitters on the on-deck circle. And I think there's a good argument there. So,
look, I will say there's one issue with this, and I think this is when you're going to start to get some pitcher pushback.
Okay.
I think pitchers are going to start talking about all the stuff that's been banned for them. I know there was a tweet last night from Matt Strom saying basically how he wasn't saying to bring back Spider Tack or to bring back all that stuff where they have it on their glove, but Matt Strom was basically sitting there and saying, if these guys can use these extra big bats, then why do I get checked every single inning for something on my glove? Like, that's where I think you're going to start to get the pushback. And eventually I think you're going to get pitchers that are going to say, well, if they can use that, I can use Spider Tack. Or if they can use that, I'll use Pine Tar. I don't know if it'll get there, but there's going to be pitchers that might not say it, but they're definitely thinking it.
Yeah. And I do want to say this, and I think we're all in agreement on this. It's been 5 games.
Yeah.
Hold on.
5 games.
Hold. These pitchers are putting balls where they don't need to be, and they're getting mowed over the outfield wall. And whether they're using torpedo bats or their regular bats from 5 years ago, I still think a lot of these pitchers are finding their way out of the ballparks because there's some bad pitching, and it's the first week of the season and it's fully expected. So we'll see what this looks like in a month. I don't expect Major League Baseball to ban anything, and sure, I don't want them to. I don't want to. This is legal. You were using it last year. It's a great story. Let's see what happens, and you can make the changes in the offseason. We'll see how that one works. Once again, Luke Arcaini joining me here.
Cruz, my Lord.
My Lord. To tonight's card here, we got Sandy Alcantara on the mound taking on the Mets with Senga here. That's an interesting game. What's the one game you have your eye on here, Luke? And, of course, that's NL East driven. What's one game on the MLB card that you're looking at this evening?
Oh, let's see. I will say Yankees have been rolling. I know they're obviously at the disadvantage sign on the mound. Diamondbacks have Burns going. But I feel like it's a little hard to fade the Yankees right now. I would probably look at the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees are, is that say minus 105 on the money line?
Minus 102 I got, yeah.
Yeah. And they're at home. So that would probably be a play I would look at. I will say I'm going to continue.
3.5, Luke. I know they got Corbin Burns. The Yankees are 3.5. Are we taking the over on the Yanks?
3.5 team total?
Correct. At minus 135.
Yeah, let's hammer. We should honestly, I mean, like, but this is where you start to get into the thing. Like, my Lord, where does it get to a point where you start to bet the Yankees team total every day with these torpedo bats?
I think we're here.
Are we on day one? Do you want to start this? Day one, betting the Yankees team total every single day until it loses.
I'm pretty sure we're behind some people. They've already been wagering on the Yankees team total since the first game of the season when they were just mashing. Let's start today at 3.5.
My Lord.
I dig it. We're on the over. All right. Let's ride the Yankees
tonight as well. Braves Dodgers. This over under isn't falling down to me. So over under 7.5 tonight. Braves, Dodgers. The Braves have Chris Sale. The Braves have yet to win a baseball game. Dodgers are sending May to the mound, who I believe hasn't pitched in like 2 years. So I am going to look at the over tonight, over 7.5 minus 112. I think the Braves maybe start to get something going with a pitcher who hasn't thrown in a while. And while Chris Sale is out there, it is still the 6-0 Dodgers. So I think they'll still be able to put some runs up on the board. I'm going to take the over in that game. Other than that, I will say I have been liking the Athletics the last few days. They've been a fun team to bet on. They haven't won every game, but they've been a fun team to bet on. And if you really want to have some fun, I mean, the Royals are plus money tonight versus a Brewers team who hasn't won a game yet this year. So I would maybe look at Royals plus 102. I will say the Blue Jays as well. I like that play minus 1.5 at plus 130. But I'm going to look at that over in the late game tonight between Braves Dodgers, and I'm going to roll Royals money line. And I do like that Yankees money line as well. I think the Yankees minus 102 right now with how they're hitting the ball is a really good price.
All right. Luke Arcaini, fantastic job. Before you get out of here, name a Rocky, Luke. Any Rocky. Name a Rocky.
Name a Rocky. I'm going to say Mickey Moniak. It's my guy.
Oh, come on. No, that's cheating. That's cheating.
Oh, name a Rocky.
Name a Rocky.
I mean, which Rocky do you...
This team goes back to the early 90s, right? Isn't that when they were brought in as an expansion?
Oh, name an all-time Rocky?
Name an all-time Rocky.
I'll take my guy, Troy Tulowitzki.
My Lord.
Tulowitzki.
Always loved Troy Tulowitzki. Always loved Carlos Gonzalez as well. Those were my guys back then.
All right. Nice work by you on that one. We got some good ones on the timeline at Fox PHL Gambler. Luke, fantastic job. Hope you enjoyed the game with your old man yesterday. Great seeing you.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, Arcaini, Luke, you got to follow him. He's getting picked up. Barstool's putting him out. You were on it, man. You were
People
pumping.
loving the beer bats, dude.
How the hell were you able to get those tweets out? Like, I had no connection.
That one was quick. That one actually got out pretty quick. The video I tweeted to Saquon and Brandon Graham took about 10 minutes to upload.
How good was
that? It eventually got out. Oh, that was incredible, man.
Dude,
I'll tell you what, that was like a WWE pop. Like,
yeah,
when you heard the Eagles fight song start and BG came out, that was electric yesterday.
And then Saquon, no one had.
And I will say, I don't want to say I called the BG first pitch, but I kind of called the BG first pitch. I love how they waited for Saquon. They brought BG out. They gave BG his moment. Everyone started to calm down a little bit, and then all you heard is, and number 26, and Dan Baker's ringing in 26, and Saquon runs out. Oh, it was awesome. Awesome game yesterday. The vibes were up. Back at it tomorrow. I'll actually be down there the next 2 days. I'll be down there I'll be down there the next 4 out of 5 Phillies games. These next 4. So yeah, we got Rockies for 2 more, then a big one against the Dodgers Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Nice Apple TV game on Friday night.
And as you pointed out, Dodgers and Braves this evening. It is a game that I will be checking in on with Chris Sale on the mound, taking on Dustin May, who's been dealing with a bunch of injuries, who's a hell of a pitcher. It's crazy. The Dodgers, more and more you get reminded of how deep they are and how it's going to be really tough to beat them. Plus 110 for Chris Sale. Yeah, enjoy that one. But good luck. We'll see if the Braves can actually hand the Dodgers their first loss of the season. And oh, by the way, can the Braves get their first victory on the season?
My Lord.
Luke Arcaini will continue to read you at crossingbroad.com. Continue to follow you on socials. Always a pleasure, sir. Thanks for a couple minutes today.
Sir, thanks, Sean.
My man, there he is. Luke on the Gambler stream. Coming up on the other side. Let's keep it moving. March Madness rolls on. We got our Final Four teams, and now everybody is front and center. You can't tell me that, look, I wish they had a FAU in here or a Butler or a team. No, we got all 4 1 seeds, first time since 2008. Are you folks prepared for what we're going to see when Houston and Duke play? Did you folks even pay attention to when Florida went into Auburn couple weeks ago, couple months ago, as an 11-point underdog and threw up 90-plus points against Auburn and won that game. And now we get that rematch on Saturday. Like, are you guys prepared for what we're going to witness? For my money, it could not be any better than these 4 teams that are standing tall at this point in time. For Sam Oshtry, of course, we do know that he is a big-time Terp supporter as an alum. So I think that could have got a little bit better for him. He's going to join us on the other side. The Terps named the new head coach. We'll find out if Sam Oshtry from The Score is a fan, but we'll also talk a little bit more as far as previewing the Final Four between Duke and Houston, Auburn and Florida. More Daily Ticket back after this.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
So on the Schuylkill eastbound 202 to Belmont, Montgomery Drive to south, westbound Jan University to Garden City to Belmont, Vine Expressway busy both ways, Schuylkill to 95, 95 northbound back to Allegheny to Bridge, southbound heavy Cotman Bridge and Jam Ridley Park to the Blue Route, wire to tell total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places to take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/credit card.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Sometimes it feels like the world is moving at hyperspeed and you can't keep up because it's one thing then another. And don't forget the meeting and the yoga class and the dinner reservation. But then you get into the all-new Nissan Murano and you feel the breeze from the panoramic moonroof while the massaging seats melt away the tension of the day. And you realize that sometimes the greatest rush is not rushing at all. Shop the all-new Murano at NissanUSA.com. Panoramic moonroof massaging leather appointed seats are available features.
In this week's Marketers Report, Corey Marchesotto, CMO of Elf Beauty, partner of iHeart Women's Sports, talks about partnerships.
I see brands as antennas. So we send out the ELF signal, and what comes back is people who want to be a part of this story. Why are we partnering with iHeart? Because we want to advance women in sports.
As the #1 audio company, iHeart Media can get more people to hear your message than anyone else. For better results for every budget, visit iHeartAdvertising.com.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. In the divorce process, this comes down to 3 key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Offices in Philadelphia, Radnor, and Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois only. Michelle Ferrari, licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Online at CordellCordell.com.
From the very beginning, iHeart has believed in me.
Even now, I still get excited when I hear one of my songs playing on the radio.
Thank you, iHeartRadio, for honoring the truth I've fought for in my music.
Because we believe in the power of music. All your favorite artists, all in one place. The free iHeartRadio app.
Okay, everyone, what did you think of the chocolate bar?
It's too chewy.
It's kind of chalky.
Too much nougat.
I need to go brush my teeth.
Business is booming for Steph's small marketing research firm.
After all these focus groups, there's only one conclusion. I need more researchers.
And she's way too busy researching
Does this have peanuts?
to waste time researching resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively. Across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Hey, man, you all right? Need me to call 911? No, call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at topdoglaw.com. Once again, that's topdoglaw.com.
In just the third year after Coach K, Duke is returning to basketball's biggest stage.
Final seconds come off. War Eagle for the second time in 6 years. Bruce Pearl taking the Auburn Tigers to the Final Four.
Williams throws the baseball pass. It is intercepted by Condon, and it's a great day to be a Florida Gator. For the sixth time in school history, the first since 2014, the Florida Gators are going to the Final Four.
H-Town ready to invade the Alamo City. The Houston Cougars, for the seventh time in school history, are headed to the Final Four. A 69-50 win over the Tennessee Volunteers.
Oh, that's how it sounded all weekend long. Sweet 16 to Elite 8. Now down to 4. All 4 1 seeds standing tall. First time since 2008. And we got a lot to discuss. I can't wait. For Houston and Duke. And that is not to poo-poo Florida and Auburn, who already had a great elite matchup earlier this year, where Florida went in to Auburn on a Saturday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, as an 11-point underdog and won outright and put up 90-plus points in that game. Crazy spread. We're going to break it all down all week long. It starts today. Sam Oshtry from The Score joining me here. Nobody better. Nobody I want more in front of me, especially after the Terps just named their next head coach, taking the reins, the great Buzz Williams. Sam Oshtry, how are we feeling, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Uninspiring hire. But, you know, it's when your coach leaves you out to dry, it's limited options. I wanted Tony Skinn from George Mason. Buzz Williams, uninspiring hire, but a pretty high floor. Like, he consistently will make and has made the NCAA tournaments. Not much more after that at all his stops, because he doesn't really last anyway for more than 5 or 6 years. From Marquette to Virginia Tech to Texas A&M and now to Maryland. So we'll see how long he lasts here. But look, when you have to make a coaching hire after the Sweet 16, you have limited options. He obviously put his name in the ring, and now we have Buzz Williams. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm not too excited about it. I'm not going to come here yelling and screaming like I'm the happiest man in the world today.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, by saying with the timing, it's like, hey, man, beggars can't be choosers right now. At least he's a name, somebody that seems like has a hold and knows how to deal with the NIL and so on and so forth. But yeah, Maryland's in a little bit of a tough spot here. We know what the AD and that whole situation, airing the dirty laundry, Willard out now with Nova, and we'll see what happens there. But as far as Maryland is concerned, yeah, man, that was a little tough ending to a damn good season for you guys. So we'll see what happens. Buzz Williams, though, what? That is surprising, because he was a name for a long time that was like, man, this is a damn good coach. Is Buzz Williams a good coach?
Yes, he's a good coach. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's not a good coach. But when you look at his track record, yeah, when he was at Marquette, he was really trending up from 2008 to 2014, consistently making the tournament. And then even beyond that, he was making a couple Sweet 16s, Elite 8s. And then he got out of Marquette and went to Virginia Tech. And And from Virginia Tech to Texas A&M has not had a lot of tournament success consistently in the tournament, except those first 2 years at Texas A&M. But other than that, not a lot of tournament success. At Texas A&M, he didn't get past the round of 32 once. And it's some pretty good teams and some relatively high seeds. And he didn't get past the round of 32 once. So the ceiling really is a first round exit, maybe a round of 32 exit for Maryland, which coming off a Sweet 16, coming off such an exciting year is kind of disappointing. But Maryland, this was only their first Sweet 16 in the last 9 years. So I think everyone needs to kind of lower the bar and the standard of where Maryland is as a basketball institution now, including myself, that it's not some prominent basketball school anymore. And it's hard to make a hire when you don't have an athletic director making the hire. Like, who's going to go in a position where they don't even know who their boss is going to be necessarily? And with the revenue sharing and all that at play, it's hard to make this hire. But Buzz Williams is a good coach. He's nothing really to get excited about. And I think I speak for the pulse of the Maryland fan base when I say, that they hope that there's a relatively high floor, but no one's really that excited about this, especially with how everything ended with Willie.
Correct. Yeah. Villanova in action tonight, though, right here on the airwaves. 8 p.m. tipping off. I wonder if Willard's is he heading to Vegas? He better.
Yep. He's in Vegas now. Yep.
Yeah, I would imagine. I saw him catch the girls' game yesterday, so that's cool. All right, let's move it off before Sam says something nasty about Villanova's. I kid. From the weekend, though, Sam, of course, we had Texas Tech, Florida, Alabama, and then Duke. On Sunday, we had Tennessee, Houston, Michigan State, and Auburn. The floor is yours. Where do you want to start before we dive into the Final Four matchups? What was the one thing that stood out to you the most between those four games over the weekend?
Pretty disappointing. Not to take a negative attitude today. I guess I'm in a bad mood because of this Buzz Williams thing, but pretty disappointing.
Disappointing? All four?
No, I wouldn't say all four, as in the totality of the Elite Eight, because you had the best teams playing 3 1-2 matchups and then 1-1-3 matchup, and there was one competitive game. So as much as everyone's saying we don't want upsets because it's going to produce the best games later in the tournament, well, maybe the best talent on the floor, I'll give you that, but not the best games. I mean, the Bama Duke game wasn't really close, and Duke is just remarkable. I mean, what they've been able to do this year is special. But beyond that, and that wasn't really a close game, there weren't a lot of super competitive games. So even if it's the best matchup and the best talent on the floor, that doesn't produce necessarily competitive games. So it's pretty disappointing Elite Eight. The only great game was Florida, Texas A&M. And I mean, Walter Clayton Jr., that shot making was special, just phenomenal. I thought Florida was dead. I thought Texas Tech had them, and I needed Florida badly for a survivor pool, which I'm alive in both, by the way, heading into the Final Four.
Nice work.
So I thought Florida was dead in the water. Walter Clayton Jr. just remarkable shot making. I mean, the one where he grabbed the board and did like a Steph Curry, where he grabbed the offensive board and dribbled it out to the 3-point line and just shot a ridiculous turnaround shot. Feet weren't even close to set. The clutch shot making from him and the resiliency that Florida has shown throughout the Final Four, to get to the Final Four, has been really impressive. But beyond that Florida-Texas Tech game, not a lot of excitement. So everyone's saying the best teams later in the tournament, they should produce the best games. Not really.
Yeah, Walter Clayton, he had 33 versus Kentucky back on January the 4th. Other than that, that was the second highest total scoring as far as a game this year, with 30 in a had-to-have-it game where, man, you talk about, I don't get bogged down with the future analytics and like the win percentages, but man, that was way up for Texas Tech, and a lot of people were surprised that Florida was able to win that game. Me, not so much. It didn't cover the number, which ultimately matters the most for me. I gave the 6.5. If I'm not mistaken, it was 6.5. Did not cover that number, even though they got back close to winning by 5. But a lot of people did have them on the live line. Were able to cash on that one. So nice work there. But Florida is a damn good team. And, look, out of these 4 teams that are standing tall right here, like, I feel like we could all make the case for every one of them. Auburn looks the part of where they were being discussed all season long. They had a little bit of drop off at the end of the season, but they clearly look like that Auburn team that won in Maui. I know I referenced that a lot, that had a great January. That was the top dog in the SEC. We'll know about Broom's injury. Seems like he's going to be fine. But again, that's something to keep your eye on. Florida, we already went through what their great wins this year. Of course, Duke, and then Houston. probably the best defense standing out of the 4 teams. So I think we can all make the case for every one of these teams that are still standing. Is that fair to say, Sam?
Yeah, I think so. And that's what happens when you have 4 1 seeds. And we should have, this should produce a great Final Four. We'll see. I hope it is. I hope it's really exciting games. But yeah, you're right. I can make the case for all these teams. And I think Duke is the favorite, and they're the rightful favorite. And I wouldn't bet or pick against Duke right now at this juncture, because they've just been so dominant. I win 30 of their last 31 games and just kill an Alabama team that was probably the 5th best team in the country, as far as I'm concerned. Like, this Alabama team probably deserves a spot in the Final Four. It's just they ran into Duke. You know, if they were a 2 seed in any other region, they may be in the Final Four right now. But they shut down that Alabama offense. And so for as much as we talk about Duke's #1 offense in the entire country based on Ken Palm's offensive efficiency, and they're that talented and that many special players and 3 guys who right now are projected to go top 7 in the draft, which is just ridiculous. But beyond that, their defense was phenomenal against Alabama. And I had some questions after that Arizona game where they let up 93 points in the Sweet 16. But then they come in against Alabama, one of the fastest tempo offense, one of the best shooting offenses, and completely shut them down. Alabama gets their shots by getting in the lane and driving kick. Alabama couldn't even drive against them. Their one-on-one defense, their ability to get in the gaps and prevent Alabama from getting any penetration. It was Duke's defense that was that impressive. So Duke's the favorite, of course, and they're also, I wouldn't pick against them. I don't see a way they're going to lose if they're that great defensively as they were offensively too in that Elite 8 matchup against Alabama. But look, I can make the case for Florida. I can make the case for Auburn with the way they're playing. And like you said, I mean, they slipped down the stretch of the regular season, losing 3 of the last 4. And then they really haven't had a sweat for most of this tournament. They've just been dominant. And of course, I can make the case for Houston too, which was my national champion pick coming into the tournament. But I'd change it right now to Duke.
Yeah, if you get that type of performance from Houston on Saturday, that they showed up against Tennessee, where they held them to 50 points.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, correct. Do you remember last year? Did Duke and Houston match up in the tournament last year?
Duke would have won in the Sweet 16s. They lost in the Elite 8 to NC State, I believe.
So I looked at their last matchup that they faced off, and it said 54-50 in March of last year. So it had to be in the tournament, right?
Yeah, so I guess it was in the Sweet 16 because Houston was bounced in the Sweet 16. So I guess it was to Duke.
I probably should not ask that question on air. That's not what you do. All right, kids, don't ask a question you don't know the answer to on air. But still, I was looking at that. But I bring it up because if Houston does beat Duke, and it would be classified as an upset as 4.5-point dogs here, that's how they do it, right? That's how they have to do it. They can't outscore Duke. They're not going to throw up 85 on Duke, are they? Or do you think that this is a 54-50 and that's how Houston advances here?
Yeah, so real quick fact check. You were right. So Duke beat Houston in the Sweet 16, and that's how Duke got to the Elite 8, and then Duke eventually lost it to NC State in the Elite
checking and she got hurt.
Yes. And so that was, and Duke won 54-51, which is kind of those grind out games that you're talking about. Yeah. And yeah, that's the formula. And that's why it's so hard to beat Duke, because they have so many options. If Cooper Flagg isn't playing well, you can just run ball swings with Con Knipple the whole time. So it's really difficult to beat this Duke team, but that's going to be the way. Houston is not going to keep pace offensively with Duke. If this game's in the high 70s or low 80s, you have no question that Duke's going to win this thing. Houston just won't keep up. It's going to have to be a grinded out game, physical defensive battle from Houston, and they're going to limit Duke's offense. And then it could be like a 59-56 Houston win, or maybe the early or low 60s. But I don't see this being a shootout and Houston coming out on top.
Once again, all the games we have listed currently on DraftKings Sportsbook, we have movement in both games. Duke now up to 5.5-point favorites. They were 4.5 for essentially 2 days, I want to say. 5.5-point favorites. Money coming in on the Blue Devils. 136.5 is our total there. And then Florida is now a 2.5-point favorite over Auburn. And I don't believe, actually, I lied to you. I don't think we've had any movement on that one from that standpoint. I think it was 2.5 yesterday. 160.5. Nice juicy total for you there on that one. We're going to be all over these two games in the next week, over the next week. So we're going to be a little all over the place today. So I'm just jabbing you, trying to feel these games out. When that spread initially came out and you saw Florida was favored as 2.5 points over Auburn, were you surprised? Did you expect to see that number? Were you on that one?
A little surprised, just because Auburn has dominated this tournament. I mean, you talk about Michigan State wasn't a sweat. The biggest sweat they probably had was Creighton at halftime. For Auburn, they've really just dominated this tournament. And you could say Florida's had a more difficult path. Sure, resilient win over UConn, beat a Maryland team where their coach had 2 feet out the door. So, that is what it is. And then they battle against the Texas Tech team because they didn't look great against that Texas Tech team. They trailed by 9 with under 4 minutes to go. So Florida easily could have lost. So I think I was a little surprised from that juncture. But Florida also beat this team back in February, I believe. It was early February, 90-81. So based on that initial matchup, I guess Florida would give the edge. I thought it would probably be closer to a pick 'em, though. Maybe Florida -1.5. I'd lean Auburn right now. Haven't placed anything yet, but I would lean Auburn. I knew it was going to be a really close spread, and I think I was going to go Auburn money line regardless.
Yeah, we're going head to head on that one.
Really? Florida? You're on Florida? You're on the Gators?
I'm on the Gators here, and I just feel like, we talked about that Tennessee and Kentucky game, right? And it's not even up on that level, but it did hit me as such. So I will present my case where Kentucky beat Tennessee 2 times. And then all of a sudden you get into this matchup in the Sweet 16, and then all of a sudden Tennessee is a 4.5 point favorite. Like, whoa, what's going on here? How is that the way we're looking at this game? And then what happened? It wasn't even close. Tennessee was the better team. So I feel like the odds makers were kind of pushing it that way, and we're made the 4.5 Tennessee, the Vols, the favorite for a reason. Same thing here. Auburn has been so respected, and when it comes to the point spread, elevated. They've covered those 9.5 point numbers. I won't lie, I was pretty surprised. Pretty damn surprised to see them as a 2.5 point favorite over Auburn, especially the way that Auburn is playing. Now, Mark Henry Jr. asked whether or not Broome, the injury had to be a concern, but he's said everything. He went back into the game. And Pearl came out and said he's playing.
Yeah.
Now, is he 100%? I don't know, but I don't really think that that's baked into the line. I do believe that the odds makers are saying Florida is a damn juggernaut. They're a covering machine, 27-11 this year. I was reading earlier that if they do go on to win the next 2 and cover, that would be the highest ATS win percentage for a national champion over the last 30 years. You talked about Florida months ago. So, you can make the case for all these teams, but I'm in on the Gators, man. Chomp, chomp. I think we get Duke, and I think we get Florida. And I like every one of these games, Sam, no matter which way it goes, we're going to get great matchups. Hopefully they all pay off at the end of it.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a hedge on my end for the Auburn pick with the Florida ticket. But I will say these teams played earlier this year, and Florida, like I said, won 90-81. But Auburn's guards were really limited. They go back to that box score. Chad Baker only 6 points. Denver Jones only 2 points, and they really struggled from 3. Only shot 31% from 3. Auburn's not some great 3-point shooting team, but neither is Florida. And in that first matchup, Florida shot over 40% from 3. That's not really typical of the Gators, especially away from home. So I think that 3-point battle will be a little more balanced. Especially because Auburn only took 22 threes, 7 for 22, and they just didn't get good guard play. And Auburn's come a long way, I think, since then, especially their guards. And I'm not really concerned about Broome at all. He's no doubt he's going to play, and I think he's going to be pretty healthy. He came back into that game and looked mostly fine. So I don't think that's really baked into the line. I get why Florida's a favorite because of that previous matchup and just because of how Florida ended the season, even though they've looked beatable in this tournament where Auburn hasn't. I think Auburn's guards are going to be better, even though Florida's so much guard depth, so much big depth. I mean, Florida doesn't have any weaknesses really, except when they can turn the ball over more than they should at times. But other than that, really no weaknesses on this Florida team. I just think Auburn, it's such an even matchup. That's why the point spread is what it is. I just think Auburn's going to come out on top.
Both games Saturday night, 6:09 p.m. Florida and Auburn once again tipping it off, 2.5 point spread there. And then into the nightcap, Houston and Duke, 5.5. We do have some national championship spreads already put out there on DraftKings.
Oh, whoa.
How about that? Don't look.
I'm not.
Eyes up at me. What would you make the number? Duke versus Florida.
Duke versus Florida. I mean, if Duke Houston is 5.5, I would probably Duke Florida 6.5.
4.5.
Really?
Yep. A little
They
respect.
respect Florida more than they would do Houston. That's interesting.
Yeah. Let's go with Florida versus Houston.
Florida versus Houston. So I guess if they respect Florida more, maybe Florida 1.5.
It's correct. Nice call by you on that one. Ding, ding, ding. Give me Duke and Auburn. What do you think that number is?
Auburn. If I guess Duke Auburn would be 6.5.
5.5. Duke favored.
Okay.
All right. So a point more than Florida there. And then finally, Houston and Auburn. If we get that matchup, Houston versus Auburn, a national championship game.
2.5. Houston.
Houston -1.
Really?
Yeah.
But wait, so Houston -1, but Houston -1.5 if it's Florida?
+1.5, excuse me. Yeah,
Okay.
Florida's -1.5. Houston's catching 1.5 in that game.
Wow. Interesting.
Early numbers right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Of course, we'll hit on the futures and a little bit more. One quick one. When we get into the world of the experience, and it's just a whole different world now with how things have played with the portal and, players that have been there before and whatever it may be, but just focusing on the coaches. Because that's where the coaches, they're the one that lead the charge. They're the one that control the message. They're the one that controls the atmosphere, the practice schedules, the regimen, everything. Of course, the speeches. So when you have a guy like Kelvin Sampson, 3rd appearance in a Final Four, you got Bruce Pearl, 2nd appearance in a Final Four. Shire and Golden, this is their first one. Anything there for you on that one when it comes to experience?
No, because the whole thing with Todd Golden coming into this year was he hadn't won a tournament game before this season.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't just win tournament games. He goes toe to toe in the round of 32 with Dan Hurley and UConn, a 2-time defending national champion. And they show incredible resiliency. And Todd Golden showed patience and a even-keeled demeanor down the stretch of that game, and he coached a brilliant game. And then Texas Tech, 2 games later, they're trailing by 9 with less than 4 minutes to go, and they show incredible resiliency in that game. So the lack of experience with Todd Golden hasn't been a factor in this tournament at all, so I don't really expect it to be. I do think, when you go to the Final Four, it's kind of like the NBA Finals in a lot of ways, where so much media all week. There's just so much more attention on your players, on the coaches, of course, leading up to this. On Saturday, it's just a spectacle down at the Final Four, which will be in San Antonio this year. So from that perspective, the fact that Bruce Pearl and Kelvin Sampson have dealt with it might help them a little more. But John Shire and Todd Golden are just tremendous coaches, and their players. I don't care that Duke's relies on freshmen. Their players are so mature. They've never been there, obviously, because they're freshmen. They're best players, but they don't play like freshmen. These guys play like upperclassmen, like they've been there for years and have all this experience. So I'm not really concerned about the coaching matchups at all. Kelvin Sampson, you kind of feel like he's been there 3 times. When is he going to knock down the door and win a national championship? And this is the team to do it. Sometimes I just think you run into a juggernaut, though, and this Duke team might just be a juggernaut.
All right. Once again, Sam Oshtry from The Score joining us here. He's going to hang out for another segment. We'll hit on the other side a little bit of the Crown conversation down there in Vegas. We actually got some live action. Villanova in Colorado, if you dare to dabble. I know that there was some issues going on with this Crown and regulated and some numbers being removed from sports books, but there are numbers that you can wager on. So we'll dive into this game. And actually, I am a fan. I was not a fan of this whole Crown deal, this tournament, but I am a fan this week. They got my attention. I'll tell you why on the other side. Plus, we'll talk about Willard to Villanova a little bit more. And we'll get Sam Ostry's honest take as far as the new head coach with Villanova men's basketball and whether or not things will be different for the men's team moving forward over these next couple of years. Specifically, will they make a tournament? We'll talk about all that and more. And plus, Final Four conversation stays on the table. Now's the time. You got a question on the total, team total, player prop, if you're in a state that offers that. Spreads, futures. Should you hedge? What should you do if you have a Florida ticket like Sam Oshtry has. When did you place that Florida ticket? When did you place that bet, Sam?
I believe it was in December, if I'm right, 16-1. So I believe it was December. It could have been earlier or later. I don't remember exactly.
Lord. Nice work by you on that one. All right, Daily Ticket rolling on. Don't go anywhere. More after this.
A landscaping pro's workday is measured in power per hour. More work in less time. That's why the pros prefer Echo outdoor power equipment. Echo's best-in-class chainsaws, blowers, and string trimmers make light work out of the toughest work days. It's time your crew upgraded to Echo Power. Experience Echo Power for yourself at Laurel Lawn Mower in Blackwood, New Jersey. Visit laurellawn.com or call 856-228-2770 to learn more. Echo. Power on and on.
CEOs You Should Know, brought to you by Comcast Business.
Sharia McCray, the proud CEO of Foundation Academies in Trenton, New Jersey. Foundation Academy is a K-12 charter school in the city of Trenton. Our mission is to empower our scholars to excel in learning and lead purpose-filled lives through pushing for excellent quality instruction every single day. And so what that looks like at Foundation Academy is ensuring our scholars have everything from food and shelter to enrichment activities and tutoring and sports, college tours and field trips, equipping them and opening the door for opportunity and access for every single scholar to pursue their passions, whatever that might be. During this time that we're living in, there's a lot of fears and a lot of uncertainties. But the one thing everyone can be certain about is the opportunity to impact the life of a child. At Foundation Academy, we're always calling on folks who want to be a part of that, who want to have the impact, have the heart for children, because they're not just our future, they're our today. Join us in this movement to really change lives through education. You can visit us on our website at www.foundationacademies.org.
Comcast Business, the complete connectivity solution, cybersecurity, internet, and mobile, all from one provider. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Spring forward with real unlimited data from Straight Talk this tax season and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. So you can stream games during Mad March hours, check the weather for April showers, and watch gardening videos about May flowers. Straight Talk, real unlimited data, available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 4/15/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires purchase of single line Gold Unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
If you have a spicy side, Taco Bell now has a menu to match. Taco Bell's new caliente sauce made with red jalapenos is the spicy side of Cantina chicken. Try it today, only at Taco Bell. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only, while supplies last. Contact store for availability.
Hey, this is Lincoln Kennedy. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Mercedes-Benz.
A ban on the tush push won't be considered by NFL owners at the league meetings this week. It's been tabled until at least next month. Eagles coach Nick Sirianni isn't stressing about a contract extension despite heading into the final year of his deal, saying today at the NFL meetings it'll take care of itself. And the Sixers hope to snap their 8-game losing streak tonight in New York. Villanova, they're back on the hardwood against Colorado in the college basketball crown. I'm Scott Davidson.
That feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of a Mercedes lives up to its reputation. See for yourself at your local dealer. Offers are waiting.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Crash on 295 northbound north of 42, left lanes blocked. Has traffic on 42 south 10 exiting for 295 north. 95 northbound, stopping on Vine Expressway to Bridge, southbound Jan Cottman to Bridge, and Bartram to the Blue Route with a disabled vehicle to the side. All right, to tell total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Jackson Hewitt. It matters who does your taxes. Tick-tock on the tax clock. For expert tax prep, hurry into Jackson Hewitt before the April 15th tax deadline. Don't worry, they're open early, late, and on weekends. To beat the crowds and the clock, book today at jacksonhewitt.com.
Run a business and not thinking about radio? Think again, because more people are listening to the radio on iHeart today than they were 20 years ago. And only iHeart Broadcast Radio connects with more Americans than TV, digital, social, any other media, even twice as many teens than TikTok. And that reach means everything. Just think about the universal marketing formula. The number of consumers who hear your message times the response rate equals the results. Now let's get those results growing for your business. Radio's here now more than ever, and iHeart's leading the way. Think radio can help your business? Think iHeart. Streaming, podcasting, and radio, where the reach is real. Let us show you at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com. Or call 844-844-iHeart. One more time, just call 844-844-iHeart and get radio working for you.
At Tractor Supply, we know that a winning season out here takes practice, teamwork, and a can-do attitude. Thankfully, when it comes to teamwork, it's great to have a neighbor like Tractor Supply. No matter the season, our team members are here to help. Like you, they know that nothing beats the feeling of seeing all your hard work pay off. Whether you're caring for pets, chickens, or a few acres, we have everything you need to get the most out of life out here. Season after season, Tractor Supply. For life out here.
Okay, everyone, what did you think of the chocolate bar?
It's too chewy.
Feels kind of chalky.
Too much nougat.
I need to go brush my teeth.
Business is booming for Steph's small marketing research firm.
After all these focus groups, there's only one conclusion. I need more researchers.
And she's way too busy researching
Does this have peanuts?
to waste time researching resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Number 1 on your car radio preset and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. WDAS and WD273D Philadelphia is Fox Sports Radio, the Gambler.
Daily Ticket with you here live. Sam Oshtry from The Score hanging out. David Szczepanski. He's got 2 Z's in his last name. You know he ain't messing around. He's a program director. He does a great job for all things Villanova athletics and then some with the student station, the Villanova Roar. I love the name of that station. He's going to be joining me at 4:30. We're going to talk about the new head honcho, the new head coach, Coach Willard in action. Of course, get a little breakdown on tonight's game between Colorado and Villanova. I'm going to do that right here with Sam a little bit as well. We'll talk about the crown, but more focus on the Final Four with these awesome teams still standing. I just am so excited for Saturday night. I know you're the same. We're all the same. We love college hoops, and here we are with these teams. Before we get back into it, just want to give a little bit of a shout out here to our friends over at Gerhardt's Appliances. Folks, that's the home team. They've been rocking with all things Philadelphia area. With all of their locations, whether it's in Ardmore, Northeast Philly, you name it, they're around. Check out Gerhardt's Appliances, appliance.com. Over 80 plus years of servicing our area. It's a home team. That's what it is. Now they have 2 new showrooms, one in King of Prussia and in Phoenixville. So 2 new locations to serve you. If you need an appliance, go to Gerhardt's. It's our team. They're rocking out with us here on The Gambler and, of course, iHeartRadio, and can't wait to be doing more with them over these next few weeks. But, man, look really excited for the King of Prussia since it's right in my area of Conshohocken. So shout out to Gerhardt's. Congratulations on the 2 new showrooms, and look forward to visiting definitely the one on Henderson Road in King of Prussia. Sam Oshtry joining me from The Score. What do you got cooking over at The Score, Sam? What's your latest piece over there that we can find, sir?
A lot of good stuff. So some Final Four stuff got coming out later this week, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. And then some NBA stuff, some NBA videos. Draymond Green, Defensive Player of the Year. He's become the favorite. He's campaigning for himself hard. So cooking up more on that as the Final Four winds down, cooking up a lot more on the NBA as the NBA playoffs come around.
No doubt about that. He is the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year?
Yep. He surpassed Evan Mobley. Minus 160, I believe, on most books.
That is that's definitely a talking point. Now I know that's when the one award that a lot of people have focused on, especially when Wemby went down. Mobley immediately was the favorite. I have been pushing Dort very hard because I just feel like somebody from that team should win something. I know SGA is going to win, the MVP. But man, you like Draymond Green and the fact that he's got that microphone, he's got the chops. Do you think it has, like, is this not a good bet at this point in time, but do we need to look elsewhere?
I would look elsewhere.
Yeah.
I would definitely look elsewhere because Draymond doesn't have the resume. And look, he's campaigned for himself like he's a presidential candidate and the election's 2 weeks away. Like, he is a great campaigner. And that matters. Like, perception matters when the voters are going to cast their ballots, if you will. So that matters. But Evan Mobley has the better resume. You can say the counting stats are definitely there for Evan Mobley, blocks, steals, but Draymond would argue his impact doesn't show up on the stat board. He covers for everyone defensively. You know, he's the heart and soul of the Warriors, who have been the best defense in the league over the last month and a half. So, and that's a credit to him. It's a credit to Jimmy Butler. And he's obviously a phenomenal defender, so I don't want to discount Draymond. But Evan Mobley, better defensive rating than Draymond, better on defensive net points, which is this new advanced analytic on ESPN.com. In terms of on-off splits, Evan Mobley has a better defensive on-off split for the Cavs than Draymond does for the Warriors. And the Cavs have been a top 10 defense in the league, as have the Warriors, and when you take the totality of the season. So Draymond is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. You know, he guards bigs, he guards small, he guards bigs, he guards guards, and he can switch out onto perimeter-oriented players and chase guards around. But so can Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley has to play with Jared Allen a lot of the time. So he's forced, with not just being a rim protector when Jared Allen's out, but when Jared Allen is in with him, he's forced to guard these guards and switch in the pick and roll. And, you know, you watch some of his film, like he'll stop guys like Jalen Brunson from getting downhill and make shots really difficult for him because he can move his feet really well. So Evan Mobley does everything Draymond does too. So they're both worthy candidates, but when you get Evan Mobley at plus numbers, when his resume and the stats, advanced and counting stats, are better, it's worth a look at Evan Mobley.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how these playoff matchups shape up and who we're going to get. Of course, the regular season comes to a close on April 13th, so we are 12 days away from that, counting down the days. And while we're here talking some NBA, shout out to our own Sean Bernard with those dancing shoes. Back in late November, it might have been early November, because I think it was early November. And he was telling all of us to relax. Everything's going to be fine. The Sixers will be in the playoffs. He was right. I will give him the benefit of the doubt from the standpoint of how bad the East was. And like, it's super impressive that the Sixers literally did not make the playoffs, but they went into tank mode, full on tank mode. So if they were out there playing Paul George or Tyrese Maxey, I do believe that this team would have made the playoffs some way, somehow. Just take a look at how bad the East is. And I was the guy that was so anti-playoff conversation, but in the long run, he's wrong, because they went into tank mode like the great championship franchise that they have become over these past 2 decades here, or decades so, with Josh Harris owning, and here we are. But yeah, Sean Bernard's going to have to recreate a lot of TikToks from Jared McCain due to a wager that he made with everybody. We appreciate the content, Sean Bernard.
I was with them. I was with them on that. And well, of course, I'm excited to see the TikToks, as we all should be. I'm eager to see this. But I was with them that they were going to make the playoffs, and everyone kind of had to calm down because of how bad the East was, and they still had a lot of time to go. But look, it just didn't work out that way, and it's kind of sad and a little weird that, you know, no playoff basketball at the Wells Fargo Center for the first time in a long time. You know, people got used to missing the playoffs, but it's been a while since they have missed it. So it's kind of weird. No Sixers in the playoffs.
Yeah, I took a shot at Josh Harrison, the organization there, but you're right. They have consistently made the playoffs, and they've been consistently eliminated in the second round. But regardless, they have made
true.
made playoff appearances. So, and again, for the folks out there that maybe have put this on the back burner, the 10th seed Chicago Bulls are 33-42. Sixers, as bad as it was and still is, they have 23 wins. So it tells you how close it really was for them to ultimately make the playoffs this year, but it did not make the case. And oh, by the way, that was just to play in. That was not the playoffs. He needed to be 1 through 6, did not just making it originally, but if they win the play-ins, get into the playoffs, that would have cashed. And that's how it is for DraftKings, so on and so forth. Anyways, let's move off of the NBA. Do have some decent games tonight. Big old card as far as NBA is concerned. But back over to the Final Four. It's funny. I got this clip, and I know that people are like, well, he can get a lot of money in the NIL. Does he really want to leave? This is John Shire, head coach of the Duke Blue Devils, talking about him asking Cooper Flagg to return to play another year.
Have you had the conversation with Cooper Flagg about coming back?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is there going to be a conversation?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I can dream about that.
Yes, you can.
I think that's all it is in this case. I think it's a dream. And I think he's got to take the next dream in his life and be the top pick in the NBA draft.
I'll tell you what, Sam, number one, and a lot of people have said this already, but Duke is likable.
They are.
What? John Shire is likable. The players that they have, Cooper Flagg's a badass, and he doesn't give you that Leitner vibe or the Redick vibe. Like, he absolutely could be slapping the floor. He doesn't do it, and he's appointment television. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I can't believe how likable Duke is.
They're very likable. And John Shire, he doesn't have that arrogance that Coach K had. But look, give it time, because like some of these players, like Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel, those guys are one and done players. But most of the unlikable guys who came into Duke, those were 4-year guys, like JJ Redick's, like Grayson Allen, all those guys that people really hated from Duke. So if you give it some time, there's going to be guys who come in and play under John Shire, and then with some success, we'll see how John Shire acts. But for now, he's incredibly likable. He has this humbleness to him that's pretty impressive. Carries himself well. Same with Cooper Flagg. So yeah, they are likable, and this is a really fun team to watch. I have nothing bad to say about the team.
Great answer by John Shire there on the Dan Patrick Show, because it's the reality of the situation. Regardless of what these guys are making at the NIL, you're the number 1 overall pick. You can't turn that down. Even if he was top 3, top 5, you can't turn that down. So
it's not even a question, because you get paid almost $11 million when you're the number 1 pick in the draft. And if at most at Duke, like if he was the most highest paid player in NIL history, he maybe $3.5 million. So like we're talking about a massive difference. It would never be worth coming back.
Well, do know this much. He is about as young as it gets, and that kind of slanted the conversation a little bit, and maybe not so much even then. He was never coming back, bottom line. But like, man, he is so young, 18, and like maybe he's getting the taste of a girl for the first time in his life. I don't know.
Brace, I highly doubt that. he's been a sensation. Maybe in Maine. Who knows what they get into in Maine? I can't really tell you the Maine culture. He's been a sensation.
How long has he been in Maine? I feel like he's been traveling the world playing basketball since he's
IMG,
like 12.
Yeah, you're right. IMG and everything, but he's on the road. Like, he's a sensation. I can promise you he didn't get to Duke and just start figuring out what girls were for the first time.
Try to make the case. We'll see what happens there. All right, Sam Oshtry from The Score again. We're talking all things Final Four. I want to get your thoughts as far as Willard and the expectations for Villanova, and I think it'd be interesting to hear from you. We'll talk a little bit more about Villanova coming up with our next guest at 4:30 as well. David Szczepanski, joining me. All right, Sam, again, with these 2 games being played on Saturday night, is there a team that you think, isn't getting enough shine, or do you think it's adequate enough or even enough all 4 ways here? We talked about you can make the case for any of these teams, but is there one team that maybe is being undervalued a little bit? And if it is, who is it in your mind?
I would say Auburn. And I get it. We talked about it earlier. I get that Florida's the favorite. They beat Auburn by 9 last time they played. But like I said, Florida shot almost 40% from 3 that game, and Auburn shot 31% from 3 that game. They're both gonna get closer to their norms, where they're fine shooting 3-point shooting teams, but neither are great. So I don't expect Auburn to shoot that well from 3. I just think Auburn's guard depth and Denver Jones and Chad Baker and those guys really struggled against Florida the first time. But you're not going to see that again. I think they're so experienced at this point, and they've looked so dominant in this tournament. I don't think Auburn's getting the necessary respect, and I don't think they did coming into this tournament. And partly of that was they lost 3 or 4 coming in. So I get it why people thought Auburn was slipping up a little bit. But then they come into this tournament and just look dominant against Creighton, against Michigan, against Michigan State. I mean, these are really good teams. They weren't playing Cinderella mid-major teams. They were playing some of the best teams in the country all season. And they just looked dominant. There really wasn't a moment. Maybe the at halftime of Creighton, I thought Creighton would hang around, but there really wasn't a moment in their run so far where I thought Auburn, there was a possibility they could lose. Where Florida, you can't say the same. And you can say maybe Florida played higher caliber opponents, but Florida maybe should have lost a couple of those games to get to the Final Four. So I just think Auburn's being a little disrespected here. I don't think Janai Broome is going to be injured seriously. I think he's going to be as close to 100% as anyone can be. I think he'll be fine. It won't impact the game. It won't impact him. And I just think this Auburn team easily could be favored and could win this game outright. So I think they're getting a little disrespect.
What's Broome's outlook as far as at the next level?
Like, not a real NBA player, just because he's kind of one of those like in between 4 or 5 guys, right? Where he can't like shoot the ball incredibly well. Like he can score, but he's not like overly tall or overly athletic. Kind of like a Trace Jackson Davis, honestly, a little bit a few years ago.
I like that comparison.
Who Trace Jackson Davis has had success with the Warriors.
Yeah.
He fit in their system really well because he's a really good passer, short roll playmaker, good touch. So I think Janai Broome could be like a second rounder, but he's not going to be one of these high caliber players.
Can't shoot the 3 all that well.
Exactly.
You know how important that is. He's a winning player, man. He's a great college player. That's for damn sure. Right. The best player out of the 4 teams, Cooper Flagg?
No question. It's not even a question. He's the number 1 pick in the draft for a reason. He's looked phenomenal all season. He literally, I see some people comparing him to Jason Tatum, and it's not a bad comparison because he can create shots in a way that I don't remember a college player being able to do it in a long, long time. Like even some of the best college players, like you talk about a single season in college, like a Zion Williamson, an Anthony Davis. Those guys were great downhill drivers, or Anthony Davis, great post player in his case. Anthony Edwards, great downhill driver. All these guys who were the top picks in the draft recently who dominated their 1 year in college, they couldn't create shots for themselves the way Cooper Flagg can. He is so remarkable at that. And if another defender comes over, he's a great passer too. He really, not to tip this podcast, but Mind the Game, Mind the Game podcast. He really does mind the game. Like he is a brilliant, ability to read layers of the defense. That's so advanced for his age. So that's what's so impressive about him. He's by far the best player available in the Final Four, and he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft for a reason.
All right. Again, Sam, we'll be talking about these games all week long. We'll be continuing to break them down until we crown a champion next week. Of course, 1 week yesterday. So next Monday, we will have that champion crowned in San Antonio. Who will it be? We'll have a little bit more of, picks and all that more as the week unfolds here. I know where I'm at. I got Duke winning it all. I'm holding steady. I have a ticket from July of last year. No reason to jump off that train right now, but I am surprised they have Florida. And in my bracket, throw my bracket away. Who cares? But I did have Duke versus Florida in the championship game, and I was betting against Auburn. Didn't think Auburn, but man, they were really impressive in the last 2 games. So I was right there with you when you're saying maybe one team that's not getting enough attention could be Auburn. I agree with that, but I just think Florida and the odds makers are trying to say they're not losing here. So, and they might beat Duke in the championship game. We'll see. We'll see. Long way to go because we don't even know who else playing on Monday night. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and switch gears and get on over to Villanova. They are in action tonight, taking on Colorado, 2.5-point favorites on DraftKings Sportsbook. Willard to Villanova, is it fair to just like you have to have expectations from he has to deliver immediately, Sam? Or is that not how it should shake out for Villanova, and it won't be beneficial for Willard to have those expectations year one?
He should deliver immediately. And the reason why those expectations are fair is because it's easier to turn around a college program now more than ever with the transfer portal. Like most teams throughout the country are going to look completely different, even when their coach remains in his spot. So yeah, he's coming in. He has a little bit of a later start, even though he's known he's taken Nova for a while. He's still putting a staff together, all that stuff. So it's not as easy. It's a little bit of a disadvantage. And, there's not going to be a lot of guys he keeps necessarily, but you can still put a team together through the transfer portal in a way you didn't have to, or you couldn't earlier years ago. So yeah, the expectation is to get to Nova immediately and start making tournaments, get this team back to the tournament. And, you can see that Nova struggled with Kyle Neptune, and it really was like a Jay Wright thing of why they had that much success. So I think Nova fans should temper their expectations, and they shouldn't be like, okay, we're going to start competing for national championships, because Kevin Willard's never done that, and that's not Kevin Willard. So don't have that expectation, but it's fair to also elevate your expectations over what they were when Kyle Neptune was there, which is a bubble team every year missing out on the tournament. So this team should and can turn around their program immediately. And Kevin Willard is a good coach. Like, he's definitely a good coach. The floor should be making tournaments as a relatively high seed, somewhere between the 5-6 range and above. So that's the floor. What the ceiling is remains to be known, because he just made his first Sweet 16 in 18 years as a head coach.
Yeah, he had a pretty impressive resume with Seton Hall, and I didn't remember this correctly, if I'm not mistaken. But back in 2016, the Big East Tournament Championship at MSG, they ended up beating Villanova in that championship game, and then Villanova went on to win the national championship that year. So that was pretty cool.
Well, that's a big part of where Jay Wright and Kevin Willard's relationship stems from, because Jay Wright always credits Kevin Willard and Seton Hall for that championship loss in that Big East game. That's what propelled Villanova to end up making a run, eventually winning the national title that same season. So that's really where the relationship stems from. And if that never happened, Jay Wright probably isn't hammering for Kevin Willard to come back and be Nova's coach.
All right, over to the Crown. Villanova taking on Colorado. Anything for you? Again, it's a tough world, but I like this whole deal this week. It's one and done. There's no double elimination. Fly these teams out to Vegas, and if you win, you continue to advance. There's a big check for NIL at the end of it. $300,000 to NIL goes to the champion. $100,000, I believe, to the runner-up, and then $50,000 to the other two teams that make the Final Four here. So with that being said, it is interesting. It has my attention. It's on Fox. We got live action right now in the week in between the Elite Eight and the Final Four on Saturday. Villanova's playing. We had some good games yesterday, some blowouts. Boise State ended up winning big over George Washington. Butler smashed Utah. Oh, no, that was a 2-point game. Butler ended up beating Utah. Nebraska beat Arizona State, and Georgetown beat Washington State. So on to the next one today. Colorado and Villanova. Eric Dixon's playing, damn it. Villanova needs to win this game, correct?
Sure. Like what are we talking about here? I mean, like, we're talking about college basketball. These teams, their season ended a month ago. What have they been doing? Just sticking around? Like, they should get back to start training for the NBA. Some of them should start looking at their future. The ones where they're going to transfer with a new coach. Like, you have an interim coach coaching this game. What are we doing playing in this tournament a month after? What's that?
It's Mike Nardi. We're
talking. I know, and Willard's retaining him.
Oh, is he? Get out. Oh, that's good to hear. Didn't know that.
He's staying on staff, and he's a good coach. He's a great coach. So good for him. But still, what are we doing playing these games? Like, the season ended for these teams a month ago. Give it up. I get it. It's for money. It's for NIL. Like, that's why all we do anything at this point in terms of more games, more tournaments, more teams.
Yes.
So it makes sense. I get it.
Who's winning?
I'm not watching a second of the Crown, not a second of it. The college basketball's already taken up way too much of my NBA viewership. I got to get back to the NBA. I miss the NBA. I only get it from Monday to Wednesday the last couple weekends. I miss the NBA. We don't need to be watching the Crown. Like, what is this?
My Lord. Good grief. All right. damn daggers all over the place. Colorado was terrible this year. 0-10 on the road, so hopefully that continues tonight. Once again, Villanova catch the game right here on the Gambler.
Hey, are we going to count Eric Dixon's points?
Yes.
And breaks the record tonight? All right.
Yes. Yes, it's college basketball. It's being played.
Yeah,
It's
I
official.
won't argue that. He deserves it. He's a hell of a player.
All right. Fun stuff, Sam. Again, we'll be bringing this back up a little bit later this week. We'll talk a little bit more as far as official predictions, picks, plays, all that and more. But continue to follow you on all things socials and, of course, reading you over at The Score. You the man. Enjoy it as always, Sam. Good luck on those plays, and we'll catch up later this week, man.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon. Thanks for having me.
Don't ask him about the crown. There he is.
Please.
That was good. That was good.
My Lord.
Yeah, he was not having that conversation at all. All right, other side. We'll continue to talk some Villanova. David Stefanski's going to join me here, and I'm looking forward to getting David on the show. Hard worker, doing big things for all things Villanova sports. The Roar, which is the student radio station. This dude, trust me, you're going to be reading about him, hearing about him a heck of a lot more in the future, doing big things. But right now, covering all things Villanova athletics. And of course, that's the big story. And we got Villanova coming up a little bit later, taking on Colorado. Catch the action. Pregame coverage starts at 8 o'clock. David's going to join me on the other side. We'll talk a little bit more about Mr. Willard. And I did not know that Mike Nardi is remaining on the coaching staff. That's a great move for Kevin Willard right out the chute. We'll talk a little bit more about his expectations, all that coming up on the other side. Back into this.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Construction has a crawling on the Vine Expressway eastbound Schuylkill to the ramps 95 between 8th and 95. The left lane's blocked on the westbound side. Jammed coming off at 95 and getting onto the westbound Vine. Left lane's blocked there. On the Schuylkill westbound, Jan, University to Girard, and City to Belmont eastbound. So 202 to Belmont and Jan, Montgomery Drive to South. Boulevard northbound stacked up Schuylkill to Broad. 95 northbound, stop and go Vine Expressway up to Bridge. Southbound heavy Coppin to Bridge. And Bartram to 320. Liar to tell it total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Jackson Hewitt. It matters who does your taxes. Tick-tock on the tax clock. For expert tax prep, hurry into Jackson Hewitt before the April 15th tax deadline. Don't worry, they're open early, late, and on weekends. To beat the crowds and the clock, book today at jacksonhewitt.com.
This is Joe Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the nation's largest family law firm, but we're more than just size. We're part of your community. With offices across the country, our attorneys and staff live and work where you do. And because we're local, we know your courts and your legal community. When divorce puts your future on the line, you need a firm that's both powerful and personal.
Offices in Philadelphia, Radnor, and Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois only. Michelle Ferrari, licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. CordellCordell.com.
Your one stop for advertising? Call 844-844-IHEART.
Roots Picnic is back May 31st and June 1st at the Man in Fairmount Park in Philadelphia. Hold on, wait a minute. D'Angelo, Lenny Kravitz, Meek Mill, The Roots, Glorilla, Miguel, Thames, Kaytranada, Lotto, Music Soul Child, Jay-Z, 2 Chainz, and many more. For tickets and info, head to rootspicnic.com. Presented in partnership with Live Nation Urban.
If you want customers to come back to buy their next vehicle,
you need to treat them right, delivering excellent customer service.
You need to make the car buying experience easy.
And you need to show them you appreciate their business. That's why we give customers 3 years of complimentary oil changes and tire rotations.
You can count on Coleman to do all those things and give you a great deal on a new Buick or GMC.
That's how we've grown our business for over 77 years.
At Coleman Buick GMC, next to the Quaker Bridge Mall.
Prohibition. It's no secret that banning alcohol didn't stop people from living it up in the 1920s.
When we're 5 years into Prohibition, the government is starting to go, okay, this isn't working.
I'm Ed Helms, and on Season 3 of Snafu, we're taking you back to the 1920s and the tale of Formula 6. What you probably don't know about Prohibition is that American citizens were dying due to poisoned liquor, and all along, an unlikely duo was trying desperately to stop the corruption behind it. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Snafu, and listen now.
At Rocket, we believe everyone deserves their shot at the American dream. So if you're feeling locked out of home ownership, we're here to give you back the keys. We're opening doors, breaking down walls, and doing everything we can to turn renters into owners. And we're not going to stop until we help everyone home. To find out more, visit rocket.com. Rocket, own the dream.
Hey, man, you all right? Need me to call 911? No, call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at topdoglaw.com. Once again, that's topdoglaw.com.
March Madness is here, and so is your bracket anxiety.
Howerman, he tries. Oh, he makes it. He makes it. There's a cow. Wow!
Don't sweat the upsets. Tune into the Daily Ticket with Sean Brace for sharp bets, bold takes, and just the right amount of chaos.
Oh!
Nobody covers the madness like the Gambler.
Coming down the home stretch here, live with you on a Tuesday. Sean Brace Daily Ticket, great stuff for Sam Oshtry there. Not a big fan of the crown. It's all right. I understand. You know, it's not for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea at this point in time.
My Lord.
Yeah, my Lord. He's killing it. That's all right. If it is your cup of tea, we got it for you tonight. Coming up, 8 p.m. Pre-game coverage tipping off. Villanova back on the court a month later, taking on Colorado. David Szczepanski's joining us right now. David is a young and rising star through the ranks, and he covers all things Villanova athletics and then some. So I'm really looking forward to hearing his thoughts on tonight's game. And, oh, by the way, the Cats with a great new hire in Coach Willard. David, great to have you. How we doing today, sir?
Doing excellent. Great to be here with you, Sean. Thanks so much for having me on. And, you know, Villanova hasn't played a basketball game since March 13th. So any way that I can talk about the Cats, I'm all for it. So looking forward to tonight's game and the Crown Tournament. And obviously a lot to talk about because the last few weeks have been really busy in Villanova world.
Yes. So David is the program director and it does a host. He does everything as we all do in this industry. But over at the Villanova student radio station, The Roar, love the name The Roar. How long has that radio station been around?
We've been around for over 100 years now. The WXVU, The Roar, I believe that it officially took kind of the namesake, The Roar, really in about the 70s or the 80s. So it's been a while, but it's a lot of fun. And thanks so much for having me on. It's allowed me to be on a show like this. So very excited.
Man, great stuff. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Cats and the new hire. Coach Willard. Where are we at as far as the vibe from the students on campus, your friends, you yourself? Look, it seems like it was appointment hire. It seems like it was their guy all along. How are we feeling about Coach Willard now with Villanova men's basketball team?
I would agree that it was, their guy or one of their top guys for a long time. The vibe on campus, I think, is mainly positive about Kevin Willard being the head coach. Obviously there's been a lot of, outside noise and some valid concerns from, Maryland and, some of the issues of him leaving Seton Hall in Maryland in a very similar fashion. But in terms of Villanova and how people think about Kevin Willard, I think it's generally positive here. You look at his success and his coaching experience, which I think a lot of people had some concerns about when Kyle Neptune was originally hired, was just his lack of head coaching experience. Well, let me tell you, Kevin Willard does not have any lack of head coaching experience. He started in 1997 as an assistant with the Celtics. He also is under the same coaching tree of Rick Pitino. So, that with how good, Pitino has been, especially with the St. John's Red Storm, that is also something notable. But he's had success at every stop he's been at. You look at what he did in Iona, beginning to start his coaching career, was able to win over 20 games in his final season there in 2009, 2010. And then most notably, he was with Seton Hall for 12 years. And I know that a lot of people talk about, he didn't really advance through the tournament a whole lot when he made it. But, 6 of his last 7 years, he had at least 20 wins. And he also should have made the tournament in each of those 6 of the last 7 years. If it wasn't for COVID, which was the only year of those 6 where he had at least 20 wins in his last 7 at Seton Hall, where he didn't make the tournament. And that team was 20-9. I mean, you can make a large case that they had a good chance to go pretty deep in the NCAA tournament if they got there. They were the Big East regular season champions. And then, most recently at Maryland, which I think a lot of people are pretty excited about, he had his deepest run as a head coach, getting to the Sweet 16. And, I think a lot of people somewhat forget, before he got there to Maryland, that was a program that wasn't having a whole lot of success. And, he won 22 games in his first year. I think a lot of people are hopeful that he can do a very similar thing here at Villanova. But, to kind of overall and round it together, I think the vibe is really positive about Willard. There were a lot of names on that list. Chris Collins, Ryan Odom, who I think, a lot of people talked about, even Richard Pitino, who eventually went to Xavier. But, my understanding is just with how long Villanova had waited to make the switch and to pick up Willard, I think he was their top guy all along. And I think that was a good decision from Villanova. So I'm personally happy by the hire. And I think his coaching success, and the success that he's had at every single stop really speaks for that.
Make a good case. Yeah. And look, David, I was thinking about this on the way in, and we won't ever know. And I know that you don't officially know the answer to this as well, but I'm curious to know your where you're at as far as your barometer is concerned. How much sway did Jay Wright have in this hire? Was this a Jay guy? Are we going to classify this as a Jay guy like Kyle Neptune was? Where do we stand on that conversation?
I mean, like you said, I don't know 100%, how much Jay Wright had a sway on this, but, my biggest guess is that he provided insight, but I don't think this was as big of an influence that, he had potential, on the Kyle Neptune hire. I think that Villanova, with the new athletic director, Eric Rodel, who just took over in January, and, I'm sure that it's been a crazy 3 months for him, making the switch. I think a lot of it, you heard it from Villanova. They put out in the press release, this was a national search. And this was really the first time, at least in a very long time for Villanova, that they underwent this national search to bring in a head coach. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised that, Jay Wright had some say in this. I'm sure that he did. But I think ultimately it came down to who fits Villanova, the best moving forward. And, you hear the, saying the Villanova way, the right way. And while I still think there is, a lot of meaning to that, especially here at Villanova, the changing landscape of college basketball that we talk about so much has truly, I don't want to say it's moved away from how Villanova had success in the late 2010s, but, it has to a certain extent. And I think that Villanova has to keep what is very important to their program, which is obviously their attitude, its work ethic, just the way that it goes about its business. But I think it's also time to realize that, it is good to go to a national search and bring in the best overall candidate, not necessarily someone from, Jay Wright's coaching tree, but also, kind of adapting and being able to get someone that, is a really good recruiter. Because I think sometimes it gets overlooked about Kyle Neptune a little bit. I know that the success was not there on the court for Neptune, but he was an excellent recruiter, Sean. I mean, Dante Allen, who just decommitted a few days ago from Villanova, still an opportunity that he could come back now that Willard is the head coach. But he was an excellent recruiter. And in this day of college basketball, it's not just being about to recruit, some of the younger players and, the high school players that are coming to college, but, the transfer guys. And Neptune also did a really good job at that. Jameer Brickus, Wuga Poplar, who are both going to play tonight. Tyler Perkins, who, could have a big role in the future. So, just to kind of put that all together once again, I'm sure that Jay Wright had some perspective, but I also think that Villanova saw this as an opportunity to stay with what is so important to Villanova in terms of its culture and its attitude, but also realizing that the times have changed and they have to adapt a little bit. And that's how this, national coaching search happened. And that's how, they ultimately landed on Kevin Willard.
David Szczepanski joining us here, talking a little bit about Villanova, the new head coach in town, and how we got to this point. Man, that's crazy. I did not see the recruit that decommitted. And I just found out that Nardi is still on the Willard staff. He's going to retain him. Is there anything else of substance as far as players decommitting or players following Coach Willard, or anything with the coaching staff that you could add to that?
Not as of right now in terms of the coaching staff wise, but I will say that there have been some rumors. Well, first of all, I'll add that Nana Njoku has been the only player so far to enter the transfer portal for Villanova. That was announced probably about a week ago or so officially, but Nana has been battling some injuries, so he wanted to play tonight anyway. And unfortunately, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy in his Villanova career, but he's entered the transfer portal. And we'll see, what happens after that. I mean, a lot of these players for Villanova, especially the starting five that are all going to play tonight in the Crown Tournament, from my understanding, they're all either out of years of eligibility, graduating. So there aren't a whole lot of, switches that can happen. Kind of the main guy that I would keep an eye on for the transfer portal will be Tyler Perkins, a guy that Villanova was able to get from the University of Pennsylvania last year in the transfer portal, who really had success, blossomed in his freshman year with the Quakers. This year he started a few times, but mainly came off the bench. He had, he was a little inconsistent through some games, but he has a great catch and shoot release. He's a really good 3-point shooter, especially when he gets hot. He'll really knock them down. And he really showed some signs this year of really great offensive potential. and his defense is tremendous. I mean, his ability to steal the basketball, reads plays really well. So he is someone that I know Villanova wants to keep on the main line. We'll see if that actually does happen under a new head coach. But Perkins would be the main guy that is currently in or on Villanova's roster that, I think people should keep an eye on in terms of the transfer portal. And, in terms of Maryland players possibly coming over with Kevin Willard, I know that there's been some traction, with Jacoby Gillespie. I would be very surprised if that would happen. Maybe you see a couple players come over from Maryland, but I think for the most part, Villanova is hoping to retain some of their important younger players like Tyler Perkins, Alexander Gablagov, Matthew Hodge, who didn't play this year, had some issues with his waiver and actually getting NCAA eligibility. But I think kind of the biggest fish, Sean, is just Tyler Perkins and getting him to stay on the main line.
I love it. Yeah, I was hoping that Derek Queen was going to follow Willard to the main line, but
that would be awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's going to take place. All right, David. I came across a comment from the great John Fanta when he was on a podcast recently with Barstool Sports, and he said, quote, "Money is not an object to Villanova. It's not." That's news to me. And I've been involved in a few conversations behind the scenes. A lot of I get what Fanta is saying there. What is your big takeaway when you read something like that from John Fanta? Do you think he's more on point than I am on this one? Because I did not read Villanova like that. I know Villanova has a ton of money to work with NIL. They do a lot of great work behind the scenes. It can go into the Friends of Nova program, all of that. But man, to go out there and as big as a star John Fanta is, and to really bang the desk about this, talking about Villanova, and it all came from the standpoint of what's a better program, Maryland or Villanova. I would not argue with that. Villanova is a better program in my eyes. But he said, quote, "Money is not an object to Villanova. It's not." What do you say to that?
I think he's pretty spot on, Sean, honestly. Especially when you consider a program like Maryland, where Kevin Willard is coming from, especially, in the next few, months, whenever the House settlement is eventually settled and revenue sharing and all of that, Maryland is going to commit a lot of its NIL funds to college football. And most programs that, most universities and schools that have an FBS football program are going to commit, 80%, whatever that is, around that number of their funds, of their NIL funds to college football. That's just the way that it is. And with the popularity of college football. But for Villanova, it's a unique opportunity because we don't have an FBS football program. Villanova doesn't have an FBS football program. So it's an FCS program, which Villanova and has had a lot of success recently. But a majority of Villanova's NIL funds are going to men's basketball. And that's why Villanova, I think, is one of the top jobs in college basketball, because it's a top program. It entered blue blood status. At least I think it did. You can argue if it's still there. But with the success that it's had with the NIL resources, the donors, especially with, Jay Wright, who we mentioned earlier, who's still, as a special assistant and, trying to recruit more, donors and more money for the school and for the program. I think that is pretty true for Villanova. I know that over the past 3 years that some of the donor money has declined a little bit. But for the most part, it's still really strong. And when you compare a job like Maryland, and I think that's Willard's main argument. I mean, you heard a lot in those press conferences before March Madness about his resources and about, the trip to New York. And regardless, how you may seem about that, he was being honest about it, at least, from what it seems. And for Villanova, they really prioritize men's basketball, especially with its NIL money. And I think there is a good amount of it for the Wildcats. Obviously, there's a lot of teams that, do have a good amount of money, and you're competing, especially nowadays, with some of those bigger schools and, especially some of those state schools, which maybe Villanova can't quite compete with. But for a program that, doesn't have, the FBS program that Maryland does or some of the other schools does, Villanova has that opportunity to take advantage of that extra NIL money and use it towards men's basketball and use it towards, bringing in players in the transfer portal. And that's what they did, right? They brought in Wooga Poplar, cost them a lot of money in the NIL. Last year, Jameer Brickus was a good bring-in, Tyler Perkins as well. But even the year before that, TJ Bamba, who was on Oregon this year, Tyler Burton, Brendan Hausen, who had a pretty decent year with Kansas State. So, they've done a good job at bringing in players, especially, like I said, Bamba a couple of years ago, and then most recently with Wooga Poplar. So the money is there for Villanova. I would definitely agree with that.
All right. Good take, man. I was listening. I'm like, damn, Fanta. All right, if Fanta's the rising star, if Fanta says it, there's got to be some truth behind it. So it's great to hear that you believe in that as well, because that's only going to lead to more success for Villanova and, of course, with Coach Willard. Last one on that, because I know he's heading down to Vegas, correct? He'll be down there tonight.
From my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yes, he should be. Yes.
What are your expectations? What's a fair expectation for him year one? Because I know that Villanova fans are just starving for an appearance as far as the tournament is concerned. Is that it? Is that enough? Like, just make the tournament and everything's going to be fine? Or do you not believe that he needs to make the tournament in year one, just get things going? The expectations, because I feel like not panic, but man, there's a lot of frustration on the main line and they just want the Cats back in the tournament.
I don't think he needs to make March Madness in year one to really get people to believe in what he's doing. But I would definitely say some signs of improvement. And I don't necessarily think, I mean, Villanova's won 19 overall games this year, all under Coach Neptune, of course. I don't necessarily think that they have to win more than that for there to be, a sign of clear success, because, anytime you have a new head coach come in, there's a lot of uncertainty, of course, even though Willard has a proven track record. But I think it's a lot about the way that Villanova wins games. I mean, you look at how many close games that Villanova lost this year in the last 5 minutes where they had leads. It's astronomical. And even if they had won 50% of them, they are definitely in March Madness, and not just barely in, they're in for sure. Especially down the stretch in the regular season. Think about the loss against Georgetown, and then Xavier, also was a loss earlier this season. So many. I mean, there was just too many to count. But I think a realistic expectation is really an improvement on defense. And I think that Villanova saw, I don't want to say the blueprint for total success, because St. John's did not have success in the NCAA tournament. But in terms of the Big East, I mean, St. John's couldn't shoot the basketball, but they played a tough physical defense with the ability to rebound, and they just wore out teams. And it really became a 35-minute game when teams were playing St. John's, because in the final 5 minutes, they had worn you down and they were just going to take over. And we saw that against Villanova at times this year, even though Wildcats did beat the Red Storm at the Fin earlier this season. But when you look at Kevin Willard and his defense, Sean, for Maryland this year, according to Ken Pom, he had the 6th best defense and defensive efficiency this season in the country, 6th best. Last year, he had the 14th best defense, according to Ken Pom. And that was also a team last year at Maryland that was around 150th in terms of offensive efficiency. So they didn't win a whole lot of games, but their defense was really good. And I could even go back further on those stats in terms of his defense always being, in the top 50 or around the top 50, even when he was at Seton Hall. So, Villanova prioritized defense, just looking at, bringing in a head coach, but also because that's where Villanova struggled. I mean, their perimeter defense down the stretch in games really allowed a lot of points. Going back to that Xavier game, Ryan Conwell scored over 30 points. I think he had 8 or 9 threes in that game, and I think he had like 4 in the final 3 minutes. So a lot of it came down to defense for me. I think when Villanova looked at a next head coach, and Kevin Willard is a defensive wizard. And I'm really excited to see what he can do, especially if Tyler Perkins, who, I brought up before, if he could stay, because Perkins is an excellent defender. And just with what Kevin Willard has done, and I know that the talent has been there for him, especially at Maryland this past season, which has helped his defense, no doubt about it. But, I mean, proven in addition to his success and his ability to win is his ability to lead teams defensively. And if Villanova even had a slightly better perimeter defense, there's probably a good chance they get into the tournament. So I'm really excited about his defense and what he brings on that side of the basketball. But also, too, I just think, as I said earlier, his ability to lead, I think, is really important. Just his ability to really, take teams to some success. As I said earlier, 6 of the last 7 seasons with Seton Hall was at least 20 wins. So, if Villanova could get to that 20-win threshold, which they couldn't with Kyle Neptune, that would be a large success. And I think for Villanova, it's just aching to get back to March Madness in any way that you possibly can. And if Willard can do that in his first year, I think there would be a lot of people that are happy, that are buying in. But, honestly, Sean, I think a lot of people have already bought in. I think they wanted a fresh voice, making a change. Villanova did that, a coach that has plenty of coaching experience. And I think a lot of people believe in Eric Rodel, took over, like I said, in January. They believe that he's an up-and-coming star in college athletics. And I think a lot of people should be excited, but especially about the defense of Willard. And I think Villanova has a good chance to not just have an okay year next year, but I think they have a good chance to be around 20 wins once again, which, hopefully gives them a chance to make March Madness, and maybe they could sneak in.
Well said. The madness rolls on tonight, though. was your take on tonight's game against Colorado? 2.5. Dixon's playing, correct?
Yes, yeah, he's 9 points away from becoming Villanova's all-time leading scorer, passing Kerry Kittles. I had the chance to talk with him the other day and Coach Nardi at the media availability. And, I have really, really high expectations for Villanova in this tournament because I think, honestly, Sean, the pressure is off this team. I think that the past couple of years, even when you look at when they were in the NIT last year and in the Big East tournament, I think the pressure was always on because you didn't know what was going to happen in the transfer portal with new players coming in. And honestly, you didn't know if you were going to have a new head coach. But now that, the Band-Aid is off, Villanova is going to have a new head coach next year. 75 to 80% of this roster that's playing tonight isn't going to be back, including the 5 starters. I think this is an opportunity for kind of one last run. And I think they're going to play pretty relaxed. At least I hope they will. And I truly do think they will. But Dixon, 9 points away from becoming Villanova's all-time leading scorer. I know that some people are going to put an asterisk next to it. Talked to him about that the other day. We did as a press pool, and he just seems like he's excited to have this one more opportunity, this one more chance, and I think that's huge for him. It's huge for this team. And Colorado has really struggled. I mean, you look at their overall stats this year. They're 14-20 overall. They're 3-17. Sean, they went through a stretch where they almost didn't win a game for 2 straight months. They lost 13 consecutive games. Now they played better to end the season. They had a couple wins against TCU. They found a way to scratch out some wins. But this is a team that has a bad defense, a bad offense, especially their perimeter defense. That's the biggest thing for me tonight in this matchup. Colorado allows their opponents to shoot 35% from behind the arc, and Villanova is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country, especially in the Big East. So if they can shoot the ball like they did in the regular season at times, I think this should be a pretty easy win for Villanova. But as always, for unfortunately the Wildcats this year, the ones that seem easy haven't always been easy. But I truly think that they're much better than this Colorado team. Obviously, on paper, we'll see how that plays out tonight. But the biggest thing to keep an eye on is Dixon with 2,235 career points. Like I said, he needs 9 to become Villanova's all-time leading scorer. I think he'll get it tonight and fairly easily.
Taking the over on 9.5, that's for sure. David, great stuff, man, across the board. That's number 1. Number 2, before you get out of here, 30 seconds, final 4. You got to pick? Who you leaning to?
Well, it's Duke. I know that may seem like the obvious, but for me, it's Duke. I had Duke and St. John's, but I'm going to go with Duke. Cooper Flag. I'm a little concerned about Houston's offense. We'll see how they do, but I think you got to go with Duke. They're the hot team right now. I think a lot of people like them, and it's going to be exciting. I'm happy that 4 number 1 seeds are in the Final Four because the best teams are going to be playing in the best tournaments. So
amen to that. Great answer there on that one too, David, as well. And trust me when I tell you, you got to follow David. You can find him at WXVU David S on socials on the X machine. So make sure you follow him there. And he's doing some really cool things. Delco baseball game of the week, man. Calling those games. I love it, David, man. Your star is extremely bright, man. Keep climbing. And obviously we got an open door over here on The Gambler. Anytime you want to come through, love to get you on. Of course, hopefully Villanova goes on a little bit of a run. Hopefully we get one more out of this. If they win, they play on Thursday night at 9:00, I believe it is, in the next round of the Crown. So we'll revisit that if they're able to get through today with the dub. But great information on Willard. And once again, we'll continue to follow you on socials. David, can't thank you enough, man. Enjoy tonight's game. We'll catch up down the road.
Thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate you having me, and should be a fun one tonight. Should be a fun tournament. So thank you so much. It means a lot.
Absolutely, Dave. You're the best. There he is. Once again, David Szczepanski on the Gambler Hotline. Dude. Poof. That boy's good right there now. Yeesh. Yeah, that's he's doing a lot of good things. And one time I'll bring you on the inside. Buster from Q102, who is a radio savant, comes rolling in. He's like, yeah, man, I met David, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I know him as well. Trust me, dude is very, very polished and obviously continuing to climb and doing some cool things. Like I said, that Delco baseball game of the week, man, that's some cool stuff. I like that. And keeping it local, keeping it fun. We'll see what happens with the Cats tonight. Once again, catch all the action tonight right here on The Gambler. John Jansen back at the studio. And I believe Whitey's out in Vegas. Watch out. That's a reason to tune in. If anything, Whitey Rigsby is in Vegas. All right. Love it. Looking forward to hearing those guys on the call. And of course, Hopefully. Cats win! Cats win! Cats win! Yeah, Ryan and Whitey. All right, coming our way. All right, coming up in the next hour, Sam Oshtry joined me a little earlier. We previewed all things Final Four. Hey, look, for my money, and like what David said, it doesn't get any better than this matchup. Come on, we got 4 teams that are standing tall right now. Like, we got a blue blood program in there with Duke. We got defenses that will just shut you down. We got offenses that will throw up 100. Future NBA draft picks, history on the line. I mean, how could you complain about this matchup right here? How? Duke and Houston, do you realize how good that's going to be? It's going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. I can't wait for the Final Four on Saturday. And I can't wait for the crown tonight. I'm going to have to take a wager on Villanova on that one. All right, coming up, other side, 5 o'clock hour, Sam Oshtry, run that back. I'll be back live tomorrow at 3 p.m. Trying to get Julian Edlow on tomorrow's show. He's out from Vegas and representing the squad of DraftKings Sportsbook as we continue to preview and break down all things Final Four. We'll continue to keep our eyes on the torpedo bats and what happens there, or whether or not people are cashing in.
Ah, Lord.
Yeah, home runs all over the place in the world of Major League Baseball. And, oh, by the way, NBA, ladies and gentlemen, the NBA will be front and center for all of us. Yes, crank it up. Basketball and Sean Bernard's dancing. That'll do it for me here. Sam Oshtry on the other side talking more college basketball. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Peace.
Sometimes it feels like the world is moving at hyperspeed and you can't keep up because it's one thing then another. And don't forget the meeting and the yoga class and the dinner reservation. But then